You're an American citizen.
Yeah.
And you're being told you have to wait in line in the United States of America in favor of somebody who's not an American citizen, who crossed the border illegally, that is going to be treated better because it's a sanctuary city, that is LA, and a sanctuary state, that is California. How do you think that's going to vibe with most Americans? You can't have stuff like that happening and think that there's not going to be major noise and friction and polarization in the country when you let something like that happen.
Stephen A. Smith has just fired off another blistering critique aimed straight at the Democrats. And seeing it unfold right now is pretty brutal.
There is no way that that's going to fly. I think most Democrats know that. The problem is they've surrendered to the extreme progressive left because they're fearful that they will lose their power positions if they don't. I think that's what the problem is more so than anything else, and that's what's going on in our nation's capital.
When major voices like Stephen A. Smith and Bill Maher start criticizing their own side, it's a clear sign the situation is serious. His sharp commentary spells out exactly why the Democrats lost the elections. As always, hit that subscribe button and let's get into it. First, take a look at the clip for some context. Then get ready for Stephen A.'s brutally direct response.
I think that there were 2 officers who were facing lacerations on their face.
All for prosecution of those who killed his son?
Look, I've seen the videos of this snowball fight. I think that it was a snowball fight.
A snowball fight or assaulting cops?
I think it's a combination of both. They're law enforcement. They're not engaging in a snowball fight with you. They don't want to be bothered. If they're law enforcement and that's not something that they were entertaining, then assault would be the way to go. Now, obviously, if you just hit them with some sort of snowball or whatever the case may be, I mean, you didn't harm them or anything. That's entirely different. So there's different levels of assault.
What we just watched in that clip looked like light, harmless fun at first, but it didn't stay that way for long. It quickly turned into something much more serious.
The act is the act itself, and the law enforcement wasn't capitulating to that kind of situation, then we have to take that into consideration. And if they felt it was assault, then damn it was assault, plain and simple. But once again, this is something that comes back to bite Mamdani because he wasn't considered the strongest supporter of the NYPD as he was running for office.
On one side, New Yorkers were simply enjoying the magic that a heavy snowfall can bring. The city looked like a winter wonderland. People laughed, ran through the streets, and tossed snowballs, soaking in a rare and innocent moment of fun after days of brutal weather. But then the mood shifted. A darker side started to show. Some people weren't playing around at all. They intentionally went after NYPD officers, motivated by open hostility rather than fun, and injuries followed soon after. At that point, it was no longer a harmless snowball fight. A serious line had been crossed. When Mamdani was asked whether those responsible would face consequences, he dismissed it as nothing more than a snowball fight. A lot of people were left stunned by that response. Now get ready, because Stephen A. is about to deliver his fiery reaction.
In the past, some of the things that he had said about the police didn't seem to be that keen on being supportive about them. I don't recall whether or not he was talking about defunding police, but I believe. I believe he did say that. I believe he did say that. So because that's a reality, you know, when you see that kind of stuff, it sort of seems dismissive about concerns for law enforcement. And that is not a good position for him to be in, particularly when they're not getting raises or anything like that, because you don't have the money to take care of them, nor did you appear inclined to do so even if you did. So all of those things definitely work against him. And that's the kind of thing that can turn officers against you.
Stephen A. hits the mark here. There's really no way to soften this. Mamdani ran his campaign on defunding the police, so brushing off the chaos as nothing more than a harmless snowball fight comes across as hypocritical and shows a clear lack of accountability. Officers were injured. They were deliberately targeted. Treating that lightly sends a dangerous message. It suggests that hostility toward law enforcement is acceptable, or worse, that doesn't matter at all. That sets a risky precedent in a city that's already tense about public safety. And let's be honest, this could just be the beginning. Today, it's snowballs thrown at cops. Tomorrow, that same anger could easily be directed at public officials themselves, including Mamdani. Once that line gets crossed, getting things back under control becomes a lot harder for everyone involved.
Did you see this AOC Mamdani video in Spanish?
Hola. Mi español no es el mejor.
No te preocupes, alcalde.
Okay, so they're talking about childcare for
Yes.
all, meaning illegals. So they are talking about illegals, number one. Now, we live in Miami. We're in Miami right now. I hear more Spanish than English outside of this studio basically all day long. So I don't have a problem with Spanish or Spanish speakers. However, speaking in another language while encouraging people who are not legal citizens to get city services, that seems a bit much for me.
Honestly, that's the question a lot of people are asking right now. In what place do illegal immigrants automatically receive full, unlimited health care? It raises a serious concern, especially when the system is already pushed to its limits with long wait times, rising costs, and resources stretched thin for citizens and legal residents as it is. Opening the doors without clear boundaries only adds more pressure. Critics have been warning about this for years. They argue that policies like this ignore the long-term impact and place the burden on a healthcare system that's
already struggling to stay afloat. After years of frustration over border security during the time of Biden and Harris, which many believe allowed the situation to spiral, the concern is growing. Now, with Mamdani and AOC supporting similar ideas, some worry the strain on public systems could become far worse. Stephen A.
I can't knock that. What I would tell you is that if you're trying to cater to that particular audience, speaking their language doesn't hurt. So that's not a crime. You know, they're voted. There are folks in the Hispanic community that are voting, and when you talk in their language, it makes them a bit more receptive to you in terms of wanting to listen to what you have to say. And what parent doesn't want, you know, free preschool for 3-4 year olds, et cetera, et cetera. But I always harken back, and it's very important that I bring this up, because I remember when some people asked me, when you became so moderate, somewhat of a centrist per se, when did that happen for you? And I can't remember the year, but I remember when George W. Bush and Dick Cheney were in office. And I never forget, as long as I live, a reporter was talking, Dick Cheney, former Vice President of the United States, God rest his soul, he was talking to him about the polls were showing blah, 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 blah. He looked at the report and said, "So?"
believes it's time for Mamdani to slow down and reconsider his hard left agenda, shifting closer to the political center. And here's the key point. Stephen A. doesn't view that as a sign of weakness. In his eyes, it's a smart move and a sign of strategic growth. Of course, a shift like that could bring instant backlash from the progressive base that helped put Mamdani on the map. Some would likely call it a betrayal or accuse him of abandoning his principles. But Stephen A. makes his stance clear. Leadership isn't about keeping everyone satisfied in the moment. It's about building credibility over the long run and reaching a broader audience. Taking a
more balanced position could help Mamdani attract moderates and independents, the voters who often decide elections. More importantly, a move like this might give the entire party a chance to reset before 2028, rebuilding trust with voters who have grown more skeptical over time.
And I was eating my cereal. I was like, "What? What did he say?" Because I had never seen. I had never seen a vice president do that before. The president, he said, "So," and then he said, "You didn't elect us to follow your lead. You elected us to lead, to do what we believe is in the best interest of this country." And that's exactly what we're doing. And then the reporter elaborated a little bit about something with Planned Parenthood and stuff like that. And she tried to accuse him of being against that. He said, "I'm not against that at all. I'm against you asking the government to pay for it." And all of a sudden, it opened my eyes and reminded me what all of this is really, really about. Most people in this country have a live and let live attitude. Live your life, et cetera, et cetera. So what's the uproar?
Voters tend to support leaders who move with clarity, conviction, and a clear sense of direction. The kind of leaders people can follow with real confidence. Lately, though, critics argue that the DNC has been doing the opposite. Instead of setting the direction, they often appear to be reacting to events and shifting their stance when pressure builds. Rather than standing firm on a consistent vision while reaching out to a wide range of groups, especially minority communities, the party risks giving the impression that it's focused on appeasing demands rather than leading. That image slowly weakens their authority. The message starts to feel scattered and inconsistent. Over time, it wears down public trust and sends the signal that the party is willing to bend to almost any demand, regardless of the broader consequences. Critics argue that real leadership means listening to every voice while still holding to principles that serve the entire electorate, not just certain segments.
Saying this is where your taxpayer dollars is going to. And when that happens, all of a sudden, that gives everybody the right to speak up and say, "Wait a damn minute here. How is that possible?" I know of a young lady that's a friend of mine that got in a car accident in LA and literally needed to be treated, etc. And her bill was very, very exorbitant when she got treated at the emergency room and stuff like that. And she was trying to get on the phone, get some assistance, etc., etc. They literally told her, If you were a migrant, it would be easier to take care of you. But the problem is that you're an American citizen, so you have to wait in line.
For taxpayers who've been covering the costs for years, watching others receive the same, or even greater, benefits without contributing feels deeply unfair. It creates the impression that the people who actually paid for these programs are being pushed aside while newcomers jump to the front. Whether that's entirely accurate or not, the perception alone ignites anger and undermines trust in leadership. Critics point out that this isn't about a lack of compassion. It's about finding balance, making sure policies don't leave longtime citizens behind. When people feel overlooked in systems they've supported for years, it breeds resentment, widens divisions, and erodes confidence in what the government truly values.
American citizen.
Yeah.
And you're being told you have to wait in line in the United States of America in favor of somebody who's not an American citizen, who crossed the border illegally, that is going to be treated better because it's a sanctuary city, that is LA, and a sanctuary state, that is California.
This is exactly why so many Americans are drifting away from the Democratic Party. When voters feel ignored or that their contributions don't count, frustration builds quickly. The longer those feelings go unaddressed, the more they're likely to reshape voting patterns in upcoming elections. For Democrats, the challenge goes beyond defending policies. It's about rebuilding trust with voters who feel disconnected from the party's direction. Overlook these frustrations, and the results at the ballot box could be harsh. Americans are sending a clear message. Patience is running out, and future elections are likely to reflect that growing dissatisfaction.
How do you think that's going to vibe with most Americans? I don't care what city you're in. I don't care what state you're in. Basically, what nation you're from. If you are a native of that country and you're being told you have to wait because they're favoring somebody who's not a native, who crossed the border illegally, you're going to have a problem with that, no matter who you are or where you're from. So understanding those kind of things is what I'm talking about when I'm talking about common sense.
Trump built his entire political identity around one central idea: America first. That message resonated strongly with voters who felt ignored or sidelined by the traditional political elite. His strict immigration policies, readiness to challenge international norms, and assertive trade actions reinforced that position. From confronting China over trade imbalances to pushing for policies that benefit American industries, Trump consistently prioritized national interests. For a large segment of voters, that unwavering focus and clear commitment to protecting American workers remains a powerful and decisive appeal.
You can't have stuff like that happening and think that there's not going to be major noise and friction and polarization in the country when you let something like that happen. There is no way that that's going to fly. I think most Democrats know that. The problem is they've surrendered to the extreme progressive left because they're fearful that they will lose their power positions if they don't. I think that's what the problem is more so than anything else, and that's what's going on in our nation's capital.
At the end of the day, the current political scene makes it obvious why frustration with the Democratic Party is rising. Many Americans feel overlooked, watching policies that benefit illegal immigrants or special interest groups while their own needs are sidelined. From healthcare to law enforcement, there is a growing sense that the contributions of citizens aren't reflected in the benefits they receive, which fuels both resentment and distrust. Leaders like Momani, with their progressive agendas, risk alienating moderate voters. Commentators such as Stephen A. Smith and Bill Maher have highlighted these contradictions, warning that ignoring the concerns of everyday Americans could carry serious political consequences, including losing elections. Meanwhile, figures like Trump continue to gain support by sticking to a straightforward America First message, keeping the interests of citizens front and center. For voters, leadership isn't about ideology. It's about accountability, common sense, and putting the people first.